What words of wisdom would you share with someone who's earlier in their career? Something that maybe you wish you would have known, or some advice that you wish you would have taken to heart earlier?
That's a great question. And I think about too, very early on in my career, the first 3 or 4 years, I was involved in a couple incidents that where somebody died, where I needed to go see a counselor. And so I got introduced to it very early on in my career and really realized the impacts of it. What I've also found out too is you get an officer involved shooting, almost every agency in the country, you have to go see a psychologist before you come back, when you leave that. Get there, yeah, that's okay. But what I've also found out, it's not always those situations that really hurt somebody. So what I would tell them is I wish I would have known that now. Like, hey, you get an officer involved shooting, you're going to see the shrink, and then you come back to work, right? That's it. You don't ever have to see it again. That's the only time you had to see a psychologist, was during that time. But what I found out over the years is you might be told, hey, we're going to terminate you, right? And you have to go through an arbitration process or whatever. And during that time period when you're going through that it weighs more on somebody, way more than ever getting involved in a shooting. A lot of times guys can say, this guy pointed a gun at me. I shot him because I didn't want to get killed. I can sleep at night. I'm good. I did the right thing. Mm-hmm. But it's those ones where when you're going to lose your livelihood, your job, and we've implemented that years ago. I made sure we do that. When we put somebody on administrative leave, we don't know if they're going to terminate them or not. That's a life-changing thing for them. Because I would say mostly males put so much into their livelihood. That's their identity. If I lose my job, I am nothing. Not just as a person, I can't identify as a cop, but I might not be able to provide for my family. That's a huge amount of stress. So in order to avoid those type of situations, getting involved in a program like this might help you tremendously. And it's not just the big things. I wish I had known that because of course, 32 years I've been through a lot of things, personal and professional, that I did not reach out. So I'm not afraid to share that with them. If I would have known this, maybe this wouldn't have happened in my life. And I also tell the young guys, there's always a series of, there's things called before and afters in your life, right? We all know, at my age, you have like 6 or 7 of them. At your age, you might have 3, but it was like, hey, before my mother died, after my mother died. I told the young guys, you guys all have a before and after, before the pandemic and after the pandemic, right? You've lived through one for sure. But it's always how you deal with the after is what's going to dictate which way you're going to go in your life. And offering these services and let them know that if I would have, there's some things I could have done differently, would have been better off for me if I would have seeked out the help I have. And don't be afraid to do it. I was talking to my sister about this, who does a lot of this. She's in sales, but we were talking about, she goes, yeah, well, you can even talk about Tony Soprano, who's the mob leader, but he's going to a therapist all the time. So even it's totally taboo, right? That's kind of a way off example, but as a chief to say, hey, I go to therapy, I can tell them that, and then all of a sudden it's okay.